There's 2 on that one.
Oh, okay, it only showed one. It's not showing me a blue screen on Rebels that I'm seeing. Let me go back to my own page.
3, 2, 1. It says we're live, so let us see. Are we live?
Mine
Maybe.
says we're live. That was 6 minutes ago.
But I don't even know. It says we're currently live. Wait, it's working.
Okay, so this is the old one?
That's the old one.
Okay. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh, it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday.
All day.
It feels like freakishly like a odd Monday.
Well, there was a vibe of Saturday.
This morning there was a vibe of Saturday because I was tired and I was laying in bed in that like dozy state where you're like totally asleep and you know you're asleep, but there's just this little party that's awake. It can hear the birds and it can feel the yumminess of like your covers and like your sleepiness, and you know you maybe should start waking up. And I was thinking, oh, I'm so happy it's Saturday. And then I'm like, what day is it? I shot out of bed because I'm like, it's Wednesday. I have a client this morning. Welcome to Wednesday. Can we take this off now then?
Yeah, you can take that off.
Okay. Anyway, hey, it's Wednesday, which means it's time for another edition of Live and Unscripted with your host, Jennifer Saunders, spelled JJ, and
Ligia, spelled Ligia.
I'm so glad Corey gave me that.
Yeah, that's been pretty fun that we can do it that way.
I love it. JJ, because my name is Jennifer Jill, and I grew up being called JJ.
Yeah, it's so interesting for me to hear because I've only ever known you as Jen, but you introduce yourself as Jennifer, but you can call me JJ. I always find that fascinating because you never said that to me when I met you in India.
I actually haven't said that to a lot of people. I've had other people be like, when I would do the intro for the Living Courageously Exposed podcast, I would say that my name is Jennifer, but my friends call me Jay. And I had another gal who was like, I don't call you Jay. You didn't tell me you're.
Yeah. I never got that invite. What the heck, Jen?
Right? You can call me Jay.
I won't call you Jay. You will forever be Jen to me.
I will answer to Jen, and sometimes I still refer to myself as Jen. I think just because it's common.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's Wednesday. We should do breathing right off the bat.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that.
Just go right into it.
Yeah, breathing. I really am just going to invite you today to just close your eyes because this is the simplest way to do this. Just close your eyes, hand on heart. I like that as well. Downward gaze if that feels better for you. And just feel yourself breathe. Take deeper breaths. Feel the area around your heart, like the whole circumference of your body expand. Feel your ribs and the intercostal muscles like expand. Feel the breath go all the way down into your sit bones, as Brandy would say. So down into your pubic bones, and just take a moment to like feel the air fill you. And then release it out through your mouth. Do it at whatever count feels good for you. Just today, breathe. And as you do that, oh, I know this is totally itching. Just take note. Take note of what happens in your system. For me, I love this because it brings my heart and my mind and my gut into coherence. It brings me to a more settled space, and a space where I can think more clearly and coherently, a place where I can make decisions from my heart and out of peace and calm versus maybe being just feeling lots of emotion. Tussled is a word that keeps coming to mind. And it just gives me a place to be really present. And part of why we invite you to do this is because this is a place of presence. This broadcast and this podcast is about inspiration. It's about allowing inspiration to be the guide. Whether we're just talking with each other, we have no idea what we're going to say today. Let's be real. But even when we're interviewing a guest, a lot of the times we don't even really know the guest, and we're getting to know them at the same time you are. On occasion, we'll know them, but it's about allowing inspiration. It's about quieting yourself enough to hear your own voice, to hear what your heart is telling you, and then to speak those things into existence or into conversation. And
well, and not even coming from like a ego or mind, conscious place of like, what am I going to say? How do I respond to that? Like taking that aspect out of, what's going to come next and just letting it come and unfold as it's supposed to.
Yeah. To be natural. I love the word unfolding.
Like seriously, trusting that it's okay to have some dead space. It's okay to
Absolutely
not sure what to say, or and
it's okay to say, I'm not sure what to say.
Yeah, right. And just trusting that whatever's meant to come through is going to come through.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's a challenging place for people to be, because we all want to know, and we all have these guides and the 10 steps to a great conversation. Like it's just not, it's really not like that.
It's not really how
and
life
then I'm
works.
like, how do people get those 10 steps? Because they tried things, they failed at things, and they stumbled in conversation, and you learn stuff.
Somebody told them they should do it that way.
Right.
I have many places where that's been the case in my own world. So, okay, let's breathe.
Oh, I thought we did breathe.
You were breathing. I was talking. I need just a second. I mean, I did slow down. So if you haven't yet, just take a few big deep breaths. And just feel. And if you think about it, not even think about it, accept the invitation to like write down what you experienced in the comments. Let us know. Like, did you feel yourself calm down? Did you feel yourself want to be a little bit like, because that place in you that has the wisdom of calming down is being fought by the piece of you that's like, no, we have to keep going. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard. Like, and it wants to wind you up. Like, what's your experience with that? And I would love to hear about it. I often will say, I'll be like, what did you hear? What did you smell? Did you taste anything? Did you sense the clothes on your body, or like I have my feet on the rung of this chair and I can feel it cold, but I also can feel it pushing against my foot as my foot pushes against it. And so I would just love to hear what your experience is that way. I'm in the wrong. Nope. I still don't see us live on mine, probably because I need to go out. So honestly, today, you see us live, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see live. I don't see liveness online, so we'll go with yours.
The smart aleck in me wanted to be like, boom, 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 boom. Are you live yet?
Right. I was like, oh, we have somebody. It's you. That's okay. I'm glad it's you. Man, I love Wednesdays because I like how my ego, I'm going to say my ego gets a little riled up of like having to do this right, having to know what to say, having a plan, because everyone says you have to have a plan. And P.S. I'm not mocking anyone who has a plan, because there's plenty of me that still uses a plan or has one to some sort of a degree. But have in the last couple of years been learning about surrender and allowing life to unfold. And so, I do that here. I do that on Tuesday Adventures. I do that pretty much anytime I go live. I do that in my coaching, because it's not about me. It's not about the plan that I have for you. It's about me listening to inspiration and pulling from all the different areas that I have learned and studied in order to assist you in the place that you're at in that very moment. So it does cause my ego some consternation and the like parts of me that still want to hold on to perfectionism, just that a little bit of angst because I want to do it right. Like I grew up in a space of wanting to do it right and to do it all right. And I was really good at that. And I'm getting to learn that I'm also really amazing at listening. And so I love these conversations, whether we kind of have an idea or we don't. And today, honestly, I wanted to get on here and just spew a little, because it's interesting. It's super interesting how when we're in creation or we're wanting to be in creation and we haven't quite taken the steps yet. It's still just kind of stuck here for whatever the reason, for whatever the fear, whatever the concern, whatever the reason.
Just timing.
Or timing. Timing is a big part of it. Absolutely. It's fascinating to me how many times in my world I've seen this pattern happen of you feel all the good stuff, like you feel the connection with source and with creative energy and other people who are in those spaces as well, and like, okay, this ball is going to get rolling, and it's going to get rolling in really cool ways, which the ball is rolling in really cool ways. And then something or someone comes in and they toss a bunch of shiz. And it hits all of those places in that may still carry pain, or that may still carry hurt, or they may still carry distrust. They may still carry
I want to be understood,
wanting to be seen and heard and understood. Places of wanting to defend. That just get me all riled up. Like it really, and today is one of those days. Like it's super fascinating. And I look back at how many times in my world this has happened. Like I feel like I get some things moving, or I'm training for an event, and the just shit hits the fan. It feels like, and it's typically from someone else. It's their own stuff, or they're tossing stuff in, and how I have allowed it to distract me, how I've allowed it to take my peace and keep me in a riled up space. And this morning when some of this stuff was tossed in, I just was like, I felt myself want to go to those places. And then I breathed. I cried a few tears. And I had the recognition of learning surrender and knowing the peace that comes with practicing surrender and allowing life to unfold. And instead of getting caught up in the moment of, I have to know the answers now. Like I have to know how to figure this out right now. And
because if I don't, what's going to happen, or how is it going to get worse, or like all the questions that come up in that space. Yeah.
And it also like taps into one of my favorite quotes by Rilke is the basis of it is, you don't know the answers now, and the idea is to live the questions, knowing that in some distant day, and maybe it's not even that distant, you actually walk yourself into the answers. And I think that's kind of been my premise this morning is in the bump up of all of these things is that I'm not going to allow it to take my peace. I have too much to do. I have too much to do for me. I have too much to do for you. And the creation process that like boils and fires inside of me. And just remembering that it's part of the process and taking one step at a time. We're going to talk about another quote here in just a minute that goes along with this.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about that, I'm thinking, I've been listening to this book, The Courage to Create, and they talk about a piece in there of how some of us gravitate towards the chaos. We gravitate towards,
especially if it's what we've known.
I don't mean it that way. I mean, like, there's a joy in pulling order into something that feels chaotic. And there's an anxiety that, well, you talk about this anxiety when you're going to coach a new client, because they're like, okay, what's your system? And you're like, you're my system. Right. Like, but there's an anxiousness to that because people want answers. We want answers. And that's part of the creative
want us to solve
process
it for them. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's very much like the anxiety of, I don't know what's going to come through is part of the creative process. Like, and people, I find, they see that anxiety as like, I'm not supposed to do this, or what if, and we all do it. We all get in our heads and we're going to do it wrong. And we're, all the things that you were talking about, but that's very much the part of the creative process of not knowing what's going to come through, and realizing and having trust in yourself that you'll work your way through it, whatever that is, and just bringing order to the chaos. It reminds me very much of the quote from, what's his name? Steve Jobs, I think it is, where he talks about the dots of our lives. It looks unrelated and all over the place, and it doesn't make sense until you can zoom out far enough, or you've had enough life experience to realize how all those things were actually super connected.
Fractal.
Yeah.
Fractal. That's my favorite word that way, in regards to like what you're saying about the dots. I first learned that word when I read the book, The Shack. And I was like, oh, that's a cool word. And then I learned what it meant, and I was like, whoa, it's even cooler word and concept. And it's exactly what you just said is, when things look like they're in total chaos, that when you zoom back enough, there's actually organized beauty. And I love that. I love that a lot. Sometimes it can be, for myself anyway, it can be challenging to remember that when it feels like you're in the center of it.
But that's why I feel like a safe place, like for what feels a safe place for me, like painting, is a place to practice that idea of surrender and that discomfort of the creation process, because we're constantly creating, whether we recognize it or not. We're creating for our favor, and towards, beautiful things, or we're creating to our detriment, and, inviting illness, inviting, angst, and, just negativity into our worlds. We always have a choice to look at it differently.
I love it, because you talk about, and when you talk about paint as your safe place that way, it is not my safe place that way. Like, it is not where I think to go and do things. Mine's more like in, like creative expression by way of words, not writing yet. That still feels challenging for me. Just in the creation of processes for you, like, or creating activity, or like, I love doing things with my hands, and paint. Just right now, I love our Thursday stuff, and what I have, that's Thursdays on the creative unraveling paint cast that Leah does, where I get to be a guinea pig and practice all these things. And
but that's the thing, like, how often do we do things that are uncomfortable? We gravitate to the things that feel natural and normal to us, but it's really like, that's the whole point, is doing something outside of what's comfortable. And that's why I find that so fascinating with you, and that you're willing to express that process, is that you're in real time navigating all that discomfort that is part of the creation. Like, that to me is the most beautiful part. And that I appreciate that you share that with people.
Yeah, it's been really cool to like notice like what I have learned, and some of the like being okay in the discomfort, being comfortable in the discomfort, is, and recognizing that it's not about the painting. It's not about the finished product. It's about me sitting my butt down in the chair and doing the thing, and allowing it to move through me. And some of the ahas I've had as those thoughts and emotions like move through, and how sometimes it actually is enjoyable. And again, it goes, maybe it's timing. Maybe the timing isn't completely right for me to enjoy it in those ways. Maybe it never will be. I don't know, but I'm gonna still sit down and do it, because I know there's other ways that I can create and express and move all of that energy and emotion.
Yeah.
Okay, before we got on here, I had this thought to, like, we love Mark Nepo's work, and he's got there you go, the Book of Awakening. It's just daily thoughts that it's so incredible how stuff like this like match what's going on in the world, not in the world necessarily, but the world of
But I'm like,
the reader.
Our world reflects our internal world anyways. So it's
Anyway, I thought, okay, we haven't read Neeple for a minute. Let's pull out, and it's so perfect.
So today for May 15th, the rest to bloom. And it's so funny because I wrote the description and blooming came to mind and blossoming and, seeing the springtime flowers start poking their heads out. And it was so ironic to me that the rest to bloom was here. And so one of my favorite quotes is by Anais Nin, and then the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk to bloom. It's one of my most favorite things.
Tell me, I have this quote hanging right here in my house, and I need to put it back up actually because it's a really great reminder. But tell me about this for you. Like, what does it evoke in you?
I think it's when we have a sense of something or we know something within us, but we're afraid because we've been taught to be afraid. We've been taught to follow the rules and obey and not upset people and, to not be seen, where I feel like I grew up, I had a great family, and it's not to put down any of that, but it's more like, the culture is
families. Let's just clear this up. Families have shiz.
Yeah.
Like, we're put in families because they're going to poke us the most and probably at the things that we need the most. Like, we love our families. Sometimes we don't love our families. We can like them, or maybe we love them and we don't like them. I think that's more the case is we love them when we don't like them in moments. And it's not, we love our families. They push buttons. You know that. So,
because I think they see us in a certain way, and you have to stay in that way and follow the rules of that family system. But what comes up for me is like, I grew up in a Latin family. We were,
Wait, you're Latin?
Yeah.
What?
Hence Ligia. Hello. But that's not even a Spanish name.
I'm like, that's not a Spanish name.
I know, you only know that because I told you. It's actually Greek, I found out.
I always want to say Italian.
Yeah. But I think, I grew up in a Latin family. My parents were, first generation immigrants, and, we kept to our culture, and it's, male dominated culture. Women are of service, be seen, not heard. Like, you're almost taught to be invisible and to not make waves and to accommodate the man. And, I didn't realize for most of my life that I could have things that I wanted, or that I could ask for things. And I carried that into a lot of my adulthood. Like, it was always shocking to me to see how people would demand things, or, like, it wasn't the nice thing, or it wasn't whatever. Like, it was always shocking to me.
Okay, pause for just a second. There's so much more to this story. Like, this is like surface. And if you want to have a better idea of what she's talking about, I happen to still have it sitting right here. You can go listen to her live and Unscripted. Did we put that one on the page?
Yeah, last week.
So on therighteousrebels.com/live and Unscripted podcast, you can go listen to her podcast that she did. That's a little over a year now, almost a year and a half ago. We also can read her book, Living with Dirty Glasses. I will put in the comments how you can purchase that. Because we're not going to get into her story today, but if you want to have a better understanding of where she's coming from and the history of that, and just the need to say, I love my family, but my family was hard. Go listen to those or read the book. I feel like I need to like give a disclaimer because it feels so. I know what it is, or at least pieces of it, as you have shared it, and it feels challenging to share what we're sharing right now without some of the history.
Mm.
But we're not going to get into that today. So
Yeah. I just think it's that knowing that there's something more inside of you, and having the courage to speak it, to speak your voice, to, stand up for yourself, to I think of shunning. I think of people laughing at you. I think of, when you do make those attempts, especially when you're a little, like you have a conviction, and you have a belief, and you have a connection to a whole different energy that gets, taught out of you. And it
becomes out of you. That's,
yeah.
I've not heard it put that way before. I like that.
But that's what I feel like happens, right? Because to believe the other feels dangerous, and it feels like you're almost betraying what everyone believes, and everyone's fighting to have something to hold on to, is what it feels like to me. And defending their belief, and the way they do that is to make you wrong, and challenge that, because I feel like unconsciously they've become so disconnected by the greater truth. What was that movie we watched, Onward? It's a cute movie.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, it's Disney Pixar.
Yeah, Onward. And it talks about the world being magic, and that somewhere we gave up the magic for convenience, and for, because magic took effort, magic took a level of belief and practice, and then they made the light switch, and you can have light that way instead of having to practice your spells, or whatever it was. And that's how I feel about the world. I feel like we've come disconnected from our own magic. And I feel like the last year and a half, 2 years, has really been about relearning what that magic is in my own world, in my own body. You're talking about, not letting the outside disturb your peace. That's your magic. That's your power. That's what gives you strength. And you don't have to follow all those disturbances.
And so
we're taught to.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're bringing it up in that way, because it does take the courage, like this this quote, and then the day came when the wrist remained tight in a bud was more painful than the wrist to bloom. Like, and blooming often means taking, it is the risk. It's the going against. Sometimes it's the having the courage to poke your head out when it feels scary, and like someone's just waiting there with whack-a-mole to whack it back down. Sometimes it feels like that. Not always. Sometimes it feels like that. Or it takes vulnerability to put yourself out there and risk possible judgment, or people talking or twisting and turning what you're saying. And that's super challenging as well. I think one of the things that's really struck me in regards to all of that is in my own creativity and wanting to move forward, and my own fear and concern of taking care of other people and what other people are going to think, is the reality of, you're going to think whatever the hell you want to anyway. And so why am I allowing that to hold me back? Like, you're going to think what you want to think anyway. And I have no control over that. I have no control over that. I can either live my life and create from my magic place and be the magic, and really learn to listen to my own heart and voice. Or I can continue doing what I've been doing and what I've been taught, and feeling really crappy. In this creation process, it's been really fascinating to watch how many people, as we say, we're creating a business that's about creativity and fun, and teaching you how to come back to your own heart and your own voice through creativity and fun, and to let inspiration be the guide, and to I don't want to say shut out all the voices, but in an essence, shutting out the voices so you know how to hear your own. And how many people push back on that and tell us we can't do it that way, or tell us that we've got to do it this way or that way because that's how, and how much that has messed with us. It's messed with me. I can't speak for Lee. It's messed with me. And it's just been fascinating for me to observe that, and how loud people can be, and how much they want to be right, and how challenging it can be to stand the ground of my own truth, no matter what it is, or what area I'm practicing that truth in. And we were talking about this earlier. Our systems are created to create winners and losers, and the reality is, it's bullcrap. It's just all bullcrap. Everyone can be a winner. Everyone is a winner, and we can create in ways that show that to ourselves and to all the people around us. And sometimes in the system of creating it, we have to let go. And for me, it's
of looking like you're right.
Or that it's that I'm going to lose everything.
But if you give in to it,
let someone else win. Yeah,
lost everything. Sorry, you're gonna let someone else.
No, that right there. Like, tell me how you've experienced that in your world.
How I've experienced, if I give in to this, I've already lost.
Yeah, or I've let someone else win. Because it's so easy for us to look at what our mind, for our egos, to go, yeah, but I'm losing all these things, because we can't see always what the winning part is for us.
I think for myself, I've seen that play out in the biggest way of just how much I live my life for everyone else, and how much I didn't do things that I've wanted to do, or I didn't stand up for myself, or I didn't and I thought I was being noble and selfless, and
sure,
doing it for the best interest of the family. But I've also been robbing my family of knowing who I am by putting everything before myself.
Yeah. And for me, I think it even goes beyond our family. Like, it's the people who we interact with too. And
because they can't really know you if you make it all about them. And then when you start making it about you, or you want to put some attention towards you, it comes across as selfish and as inappropriate. And it's so fascinating, just how all of that gets twisted, because they don't know you. The image of how they knew you is so different from how you're presenting, yet you feel the most you've ever been.
Well, and I think it's like that. Like, for myself, in very similar ways, it's like you have this feeling, this thing inside you that's just like pushing you to grow and pushing you to do things that feel really scary sometimes. But they're less scary because there's just this call and there's this pull to do it. And when I don't, I feel like I'm dying. Like and parts of me are dying because I'm not practicing living. There isn't a heaviness. But when I take that chance and to poke my head out and to bloom a little, even though it's scary, there's a strength, and there's a wisdom, and someone, whether in my family or my friends or a community that I'm in, they're like, whoa, what's happening? Like, what is that thing?
Right.
What is this thing I see, and how do I get some? Like, what are you taking? Risks.
Yeah.
I'm taking chances to listen to my own heart and my own voice, and you can have it. You can have it too. You just gotta be willing to take the chances.
Well, I love he mentions this. There is a point of suffering, because we really have to. The quote that comes up to my mind right now is like, to have the life that you want, you have to let go of the life that you've had. or much like to be someone you've never been, you have to do things you've never done. Like all these coincide, but there is a point of suffering. There's a point of like grieving. It's letting go of what you know and what you've come comfortable with, to go into the unknown.
That it's more comfortability versus what we think we know.
Yeah, but
in my case, anyway.
Well, absolutely, and he gives an example of, he has this friend in recovery, and he asked him, what made him stop drinking, and he said that the pain of drinking became greater than the pain of not drinking. So when that shift happens for you, and I think sometimes it's really challenging because you don't know what's on the other side of it. There's an angst to it. But
I think I'm.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm being pushed to say things that I don't really want to say yet, but they're there, and I know how this works. Oh my gosh. I wasn't ready for this.
We don't have to be.
It's when you're talking about that, there's a pain. And it's that there was something else we saw that said, when you see people who are truly happy, sit down and ask them what the cost has been, because they've paid for that. And usually it's really high. Usually that cost is high, and it's scary to take. And beginning to learn that lesson and the beauty of it, and the discomfort and the ouchies and the judgments of self and that have come from outside of me, and of just knowing that by me staying tightly in a bud because I was afraid to make changes that I knew my soul needed to make, because I'm loyal, because I love, because I see the best in people, and I'm hopeful. And it's easy to stay in things that are comfortable, and that are good enough. And the changing of relationship that's been working on a year. It's been really hard. And at the same time, not hard, because I'm following the pool. And I think that's why I've hesitated to talk about it. Is because unless you haven't followed that pool, I think we all feel it. I know we all feel it. Because we all have a soul that resides inside of these human suits that we get to move around in. And that pool is really frightening sometimes to follow. And we don't understand why, because in my case, I didn't have a plan. It was completely unexpected. It wasn't something I was looking for. I knew I was needing to grow. I knew I was needing some different things in order for that growth to take place. I didn't exactly know what they were. And in learning how to surrender and to allow life to unfold, it felt like I was blowing up my life. In fact, I said that a lot, like, oh my gosh, like, to follow this pool, and people want to know what my plan is and why I'm doing it. And all I can say is, I have a pool. Would you mind having me one of those, please? Yeah. It felt like I was blowing up my life, and I didn't know what the landing was going to be like, and because I couldn't see it. I could just feel what was in my soul and in my gut and in my heart. And when I decided to let go and just practice what I thought was surrender, and feeling a peace and a calm move in, even though I still didn't have a plan. I knew somewhere there were some wings that I hoped would pop out, and as I took this dive off of what felt like a ginormous cliff, and to trust that process and to trust the blooming. And to be able to go through the pain, knowing that other people were hurting too, who were watching this process, and that that my decisions were causing discomfort and hurt for the person that I love and the person that I've been with. And so I appreciate that you pointed that piece out in there, because even though we just read it, I had forgotten it. There's pain, and I've allowed that to hold me back in a lot of places because I haven't wanted to face it. But through that pain, there's also tremendous growth, and there's tremendous opening of the heart and opening of the soul, and there's an expansion that I don't really have words for.
Well, and it's also been a huge unveiling of truth that we haven't wanted to see in your world as well as mine, because I feel similar. I have similar feels that way, and it's been a different process, but definitely I hear what you're saying. It's I think the unveiling part has been really challenging for myself.
Yeah, for me too. And again, we're talking about how people see us, but the flip side to that is how we see other people, how we interpret them, and how we want to believe they are. Whether it's for, how we want to believe they are, and how they've shown up in our worlds based off of how we've shown up, and that can change too. And it's just been super fascinating. And so
I think of some places of like how we perceive we're not supported, or we don't have
absolutely
people who accept us, and all these things, but really it's our own reflection of our own insecurities and our own judgments that we're projecting on people to make that story right, because somewhere something is off, but we don't know what it is. So it's like unconscious parts of us are putting that story out there, so we have a way to see it. It's so fascinating, actually, when you put it like that.
Right. Well, and I'm thinking, what is this emotion that I'm feeling? It's not, it's fear, like manifesting itself, that I'm speaking things that have felt really scary to share, for all the things we've just talked about. And it's that release of like hearing my own voice and speaking my own voice in my own heart. And there's a gratitude for the discomfort and the pain that we've moved through, and a gratitude for the people who are wanting to Shawnee, who is willing to do it differently and to feel her own pain and discomfort through this process, and the other people who are in our worlds doing the same thing. And there's a sadness for those who don't, and are wanting to stick with the old ways of doing things and the ways we've been taught versus what our souls and our hearts know. I had another thought, but it's totally escaped me. It's not there. Go ahead.
I think, sometimes in our, I'm going to say pride, or in our, I feel like sometimes because we want to be good people and we want to be seen a certain way, and we want to make some sort of story right in our world, we have this feeling or need that we have to save other people in our world that maybe reflect a piece of us. And so we want to bridge that, or we want to be that comfort or that savior. I'm going to say savior for other people, because somewhere we wanted to be saved, whether we are aware of it or not. And in doing that, we enable things that don't serve us and don't serve the people that we're in relationship with, and we kind of get in the way of their own growth. Because I think,
man, so true.
I just think of the places where really hard things, we all go through really hard things, and in some places we don't get saved, and we learn how to navigate through them, even though they're really hard, and we wouldn't wish it on anyone. And I think it's that piece there that we wouldn't wish it on anyone else, that we want to try and save people from it. And so we keep them from their own pain. But there's pain, there's growth in pain, and there's realization. Like, we hold them back from their own expansion. No one wants to be the cause of pain, but you're also taking on the other person's responsibility for their own peace in that, because you can't do it all yourself. That would be so arrogant.
It's such an interesting dynamic. As you're talking about that, the thought, you can't do it by yourself. It reminds me of Neil Donald Walsh's little story called "The Little Soul in the Sun," and just like you want to have your eyes opened or perspective changed a little, or shifted a lot on what this all could possibly be and look like, and how we interact with each other, and the roles that people play. And you want to really learn to have more empathy and understanding. Go pick up a copy of Little Soul in the Sun. I would recommend just purchasing one for your home and having it there. P.S. I don't get kickbacks for that, other than the satisfaction of knowing that I've helped spread a really cool message. And it's the message of, I believe it works with really any belief system. Maybe not any belief system, but lots of them. That we're spirits in these bodies, and that we were somewhere before we were here, and we'll be somewhere after we leave here. And but that before we came here, there are things we wanted to learn, and that we weren't sure how we were going to learn them. And another soul's like, hey, I have an idea. Like, I can help you with that. And they come down and show up in a way that helps us learn that lesson. And just this piece of their only request is that we remember who they are, that they too are just a soul here to learn things and to play a part and a role, and that we do that for each other. And I believe, again, no matter what your belief system is, that there's a way to understand that in a way that works for you, and that we're here to serve each other. And sometimes that serving each other is in really schmucky ways. Well, it feels like.
It's so funny, because that's the idea I keep going back to, is like, when I'm in a space where it's very challenging, communicating with this person in my life, and seeing them show up in ways that are really challenging, and really poke at anything that I knew this person to be. It goes against everything that I've known them, their character, their everything. And I keep going back to that belief of what you said. Like, I still remember who you are. I know the essence of who you are, and I know this is hurt. I know this is, just old patterning that you're not even aware of. Like, it hurts in the moment, but at the same time, I hold my center most times. I'm not super 100% great at that. But.
That piece right there is that piece when you said holding your center. It's not about like that you're better than someone else because you can you can do that thing of like, okay, I can see you. It's not about being better. It's about holding center. It's about knowing who you are as a person and your own peaceful places and being able to stand in that place instead of getting riled up. And it's not about being better than, because I know sometimes I've talked with people who've had interactions, or even myself, they're like, you just think you're better than I am. I'm like, it's not that at all. It's not that at all, because I don't believe that. And it's more about me having learned how, and watching other people do it too, who do it far better than I do or have, and learning from them of just knowing where my peace comes from and being able to return to it, even if I don't have the answers or it still feels uncomfortable. And it's not about the better than. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, well, I love that piece of, I know who I am, I know my intentions, and it doesn't matter what you and the rest of the world wants to put. It's not, and then all the media of the narcissist comes into my head. It's not about distorting reality, but it's holding true to how you want to interact and how you choose to move through the world and see people. And I still want to see the best in people, no matter what, and realize when people don't show up at their best. I look at places where I haven't shown up at my best. It's,
right.
I'm hurting, or I'm not even aware of what's going on inside of me, and I actively practice that muscle. Not everyone does that. Not everyone realizes that's something to practice. And
sometimes to a fault. Like sometimes when you're doing this, you still get to know and work with the person who's showing up. You can still believe in their goodness and all the things you know of them to be, but you still get to work with how they're showing up. And that part's tricky. That part's really tricky for me sometimes, because like you, it's a benefit of the doubt. I'm a giver of the benefit of the doubt, or I allow too much trust, or what's the word I'm looking for, to a detriment to myself. And it's about honoring yourself while still honoring the goodness in that person, while playing with how they're showing up. And that part can be tricky for me.
Yeah, I think it is for, I don't know, I can't say for most of us, but it's a tricky thing.
It's fun to watch people. Like I have met some people who do a really good job of balancing that and knowing that and just holding their space. And I'm always amazed.
I think one piece that sticks out, just to kind of wrap up here, I was listening to a book, or maybe it was a podcast, and they were talking about communication, negotiation, and that negotiation isn't about winning or going back to that point of not being a winner or loser, but more to the point of understanding where the other person's coming from. That's how you win in negotiation. It's not about you getting what you want out of it, as much as like really understanding where the person you're negotiating is coming from and working towards how can we both get what we want out of this.
I like that. Okay, so this keeps coming to mind. Something we talked about the other night in, I think it's the book that you're reading. And I was just going to let it, the creativity book that you're, I don't remember what it's called. I just remember the conversation, and it's now popped into my mind 3 times. And so I'm going to bring it up because I think it's something that for me it was mind opening. And it's the story, the example you shared of how we show, like, part of our resiliency or our willingness to take a risk or to endure discomfort or pain based off of what you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Will you share that? I don't know why I feel like it's come to me. And so
just knowing what you're dealing with.
Yeah. For me, for myself in my own transitioning of who I thought I knew myself to be, which was pleasing everybody else, to this place of like really learning and knowing my own heart, because it's what we're teaching to other people and how to share that with other people. But just that for my own self, the knowingness, it was just such an aha of like, oh my gosh, yeah, like that is part of my experience. And to have it put in the way that you shared the other night was just, and maybe someone needs to hear that. And
so in this book, it's this researcher. He's doing a thesis on levels of anxiety amongst girls, and he's making the correlation of the relationship of girls to their moms affects the level of anxiety that they'll experience. So he did this study, and then
okay, hold on. P.S. We love moms. We love moms.
Yes. Yeah. So what he found was there was this demographic of girls, that didn't have a good relationship with their moms. Their moms very openly didn't want them, dismissed them, and was very open about it. They were sent off to, it was a poor demographic in this study. And they were sent off with their dad, or there was drugs, or just go fend for yourself, whatever the case was. But he noticed and was baffled by why these girls had a lower level of anxiety than girls from, say, a middle class to upper class demographic, that they had more anxiety, but they felt that they had a more positive relationship with their mothers. And what he realized was that the girls who were dismissed by their moms, they knew that they weren't wanted. They weren't holding out hope for that maybe it's not true. It was very clear. They knew how to navigate that world. They knew that they couldn't go there for comfort. And so they knew how to move, who to connect with to get the things that they needed. Whereas the other demographic is they were getting one message, but they could feel the dissonance of that message. They were told they were loved, they were appreciated and supported, but the actions didn't line up, leaving them constantly wondering and anxious and unsure how to navigate their world, because it wasn't a clear world. So it caused a lot more anxiety. And just how that reflects in our own lives.
Yeah, I just appreciated how that was put. And because that's one thing, it's one thing I tell Leah, is I'm like, I just am impressed with the amount of and we've talked about this on here before, like her willingness to take risks and to believe that things are already worked out, or that they're already done, to the point that she's willing to go forward and figure out what the steps are. I am less likely to do that. It's not less likely. I have more angst about doing that because I have more mind chatter that way, and looking at the different ways in which we grew up and our circumstances. Like it makes a lot of sense to me. But as I'm figuring out my own stuff, that just really struck me about how we show up for people. And in this case, it was a mother-daughter study, but I really believe that can be in any kind of relationship. And maybe this is just the way that we're just going to end this, is just a reminder to, one, show up for yourself, which means you're going to have to take some risks, and you're probably going to experience discomfort and things that just might even bring some angst. And I'm telling you that it's worth it. Am I past it and through the other side? No, I think we're always moving through some aspect of that in our lives. And I'm in the aspect that I'm in right now, where I'm at in this stage of my growth. And the reminder for me, it was, how am I showing up for people, and what am I saying versus what am I doing? And am I being clear in my intentions and clear in my actions, and do they match? And am I causing angst for people in my world by saying and showing, by saying one thing and showing another? Because you can, because you're human beings, you know the difference. And you don't always know what you're feeling, and you don't always know what that is, but there's a thing. And a lot of times we feel like it's us, that the thing is wrong with us, and it's not necessarily true. What's true is that you come back to yourself and you find, like, you take that breath and you start finding information and trusting that information will come to you when you will best receive it and understand it. Just like how that message came the other night of, are my words and my actions matching in a way that brings safety and brings trust and encouragement to move forward in being you? And are you giving that same gift, one, to yourself, and two, to the people around you? And if you're not right now, it's okay. Like, that's part of all of the experience and the growth. It's just about an awareness of that. And mostly for me, it was an awareness inside of myself of, like, where that may have played out in the different aspects of my world, and where that angst may have come from, and how it has caused me to take or not take the actions, or show up or not show up in all the various ways. And so it really was just kind of a big, like, moment for me to, one, remember to bud, but to just take note, and to give thanks to the people around us who may be giving mixed messages. They probably don't even know it. And if they do, that's okay too. Just thank them. Thank them for the growth that it's providing you. But you have to do the growth. It's up to you. And just send good vibes back towards them, that they too can have similar things in their life if they want it, or they, I don't even know how to say that. If that's what's in their path to do.
Yeah. I think to your point of risks, or whatever you called it that way, what I've noticed in the last few days, where I've felt really a connection or an excitement of doing something, even if it's a hard thing. Something that I've noticed that I do just recently is I get really excited for what comes after.
Oh.
Like, just I parts of me didn't.
Okay, wait. Say that a little more. I know what you're saying because we've talked about it, but will you say it in a way that they understand the, like, what comes after? Like,
so, for example, I really have had it in my heart. I wanted to go do this run. I didn't really want to do the run because my feet still hurt, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do. And there's angst, but
I was totally dragging my feet to do the run.
Well, but there was an excitement to it, and I wasn't even excited about the dang run. I was more excited about, like, how good the ice cream after is going to taste, or going in the hot tub, or how amazing it's going to feel to see what time we get done this time. Like, I was so excited, not for the thing itself, but what the fruits that came after. And I've just really noticed that lately, that I get super excited for the after, and I'm not even thinking about what it takes to. And I think that's what keeps me in a positive space with the challenging relationship that I get to experience. Is I know that it can look different. I know that we can move through things differently, and I'm so excited for that I'm willing to move through the crap and the hard stuff that comes in going through the thing. But I'm so excited because I know it can be a beautiful thing, and it's going to be something that serves us all. And, like, I'm so excited for that. And I think that's what keeps me in a good headspace. It's not even how am I going to do it. It's just, I have that goal. It gives me goosebumps. I have that goal in mind. That's where my focus is. That's what I want more than anything, is to have that kind of relationship and that kind of communication with this person, that I can navigate all the other crap and move through it, because that's my goal.
Wow.
That just kind of came.
Yeah, it did. I liked it. But as you were talking, I also had this thought of, and I know we're a little over time, and so those of you who are watching, thank you. You're welcome to jet out if you need to, and if not, then hit pause. Or I know we have places to be here in a little bit, but we don't have to travel as far today. So, but my question was, do you think sometimes um, in your excitement to, and I don't know, I was thinking about how that may play out in my own world, and maybe sometimes I don't give enough focus to like the outcome that I want to have happen, and I'm more focused on the steps of what it I think it might take to get there, because the reality is I don't actually know the steps most of the time. We think we know, and we can have an idea, but the steps are what they're going to be as we move through it.
Yeah.
Do you think I know that I can get caught up in the steps and forget what it is I'm working towards, and that I have sometimes I hold on to, no, it's just not as easy to hang on to like what I want and hold that feeling, because I know I've got to go through the steps. Like I know that I love the hot tub afterwards, but my mind gets stuck on like, those first few steps of like when we get out and we start running, they're painful. And I don't like it, and I don't like how it feels, and sometimes I don't like how long it takes for me to get warmed up. And then, but I know that once I'm out there, like I can get into the thing, and then I feel good, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that I like this, and then the outcome comes. And that can happen in any aspect of life, but because we're talking about the run, that's the easiest thing. But do you feel like sometimes hanging on to the outcome that you want is what I want to use the
Like
word distraction, or a denial, which a denial is okay. Like a denial is a protection for us,
Sure.
for things that we may not feel ready for. That maybe sometimes it could be that, or is it just?
Sometimes I can't think about what we're going to do. Maybe it is a distraction. I just noticed that that's how I get myself to do it.
Because you know the outcome is going to be worth it. It's like having a baby. Like for me, I was like, I don't know. And when it came time to have, I'd had the experience of number one. Then when it came time for number two, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what I have to go through to have this outcome, but I'm willing to do it because the outcome was.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think I just try and focus on the idea of, I know I'm going to be better while I'm out there. I really just try and keep myself in a good space, like, and challenge, like, I don't want to. And, I don't know. For me, I put a smile on my face, and I look for ways to get excited about it. And
I know she's like, what is your problem? You know you like this. Get out the door. No, I actually appreciate that, and I can hear what you're saying. And that knowing what the outcome is, we are more willing to go through the steps, even though we may not know exactly.
I tell myself
what they are. Yeah.
I tell myself, like, just really being for myself, it's mindful of my own chatter, and just, I think I've just gotten so good at flipping things to the positive that it's just automatic for me. Is I really push some days it's easier than others, and other days it's way more challenging. So
for sure. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So many things. So many things.
Done being on this chair.
I know these. We got to go back over there to the soft chairs and the like.
You get the soft chair. I still have this chair.
Well, I would trade you.
I know you would. You have offered.
So many cool things. And again, today, thanks for joining us. We had no idea what was going to come out. We knew that we had read the quote by, how do you say it? Anais Nin, and being held tightly in a bud when our souls really want to just expand.
Yeah.
And, the experiences we had just before we came on, and it's amazing. Like I feel lighter. I just love what happens when we settle into that space and trust the outcome, like you just ended with, and are willing to go through the steps. Being pushed to share things that I didn't think I wanted to share yet, but knowing that it's okay and that there's a purpose, and maybe you needed to hear that, and have the permission to move forward in ways that feel scary, that maybe feel like you're blowing up your life, but to know that the end result, when you go through the steps, it's worth it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm like, is there more? Just know that we love you. We appreciate you. We value you and what you bring to the world and the gifts and the talents that you share in the ways that you share them. And that we're super excited to continue creating in the way that feels good for us, which also feels scary for us. And to create for you and bring you into a community that gives you the space and the permission to create in the ways that feel beautiful for you, that allow you to hear your own voice, to speak your own voice, and to stand in your own truth, and to be supported as you do it. And we're going to have a whole lot of fun while we do it. And to be supported in the moments where it's uncomfortable or where it's just downright painful. We have some activities coming up. Tomorrow you can watch for Leah's Creative Unraveling Paintcast, and that's always fun. I love how she teaches, because she teaches in the same way. It's not telling you what to do, it's giving you ideas and letting you be inspired inside of yourself. We also have a I don't know, I keep forgetting the name, summer solstice party coming up. We are working on another dinner evening. Last year it was tinfoil gourmet. It won't be tinfoil gourmet. We've got one of those in the works. And so watch for that over on the Righteous Rebels Facebook group. We'll create events. We'll also talk about it and let you know how you can be a part of it. We're going to have some Tuesday adventures that you can join us on. We're creating that calendar right now. We'll get it out as soon as possible. But until then, just know we love you. We appreciate you. And continue to be bold,
be brave,
be a rebel. We'll see you soon.